Hello everybody, it's Chloe Thistleverse here, and today I'm going to be doing a haul video. Basically, this is a bunch of books I got over the course of the year. I'm going to just show you the cover, tell you a little bit about why I bought it and the synopsis. Also going to talk about another item of bookish mail I received. As you may remember, I was a finalist for an Ignite Award for Best Critic this year, and my finalist medal came in the mail. I bragged about it a little bit already Black and Stuff trivia, but I mean, why not brag about it some more, right? So this is the front of it, 2022 Ignite Award finalist, and then this is the engraved artwork on the back, and I got a little like card with like the artwork on the back here. So the artwork was by Grace P. Fong. You can see it in color here. And it says, "It is an honor to acknowledge Thistleverse as a finalist for the 2022 Ignite Critics Award. On behalf of FIA, the Ignite Awards Committee, and the SFF community, thank you for your contributions to speculative literature." So big thanks again to FIA Literary Magazine for hosting the Ignite Awards, for nominating me. I know LD Lewis in particular did a lot of work in terms of like mailing out the awards and like handling logistics for that. So also like a big thanks to her. And I mean, I've kind of already talked about in the little acceptance video, like, you know, what it felt like to be a finalist for this award, but like, I don't know, I opened this up, I did tear up a little bit when I saw, you know, I've made contributions to speculative literature. As like an amateur reviewer, a critic, I can feel kind of like out of place sometimes at like publishing events, because it's like, sometimes I just feel like I don't make anything, you know? Like, I don't make the art. I just kind of talk about the art in, like, a pretty casual way. It meant a lot to have the work I do recognized. I mean, I've been told more than once by people I've interviewed that I do, like, a very solid job of running the interviews. I try to keep things smooth and, like, be very attentive and respectful to the people I interview. People have told me that I highlight a lot of books they never heard of before, and so I just need to accept the fact that I'm making contributions and I'm a contributor to the world of speculative literature, man. So yeah, that's enough about the award. I am so sure you're gonna see it again during like an end of the year video, or like you know, goals for next year video, maybe even probably again during like a booktube birthday video. So like, don't worry, you haven't seen the last of the award. It's gonna keep coming up. But that was an exciting piece of book mail. Now on to some actual books that I ordered. So first up, I actually have some copies of Fireside Quarterly. So for those that don't know, there is a literary magazine, Fireside Magazine. I believe the founder is Brian J. White. And I think LD Lewis was on the editorial staff this year. And this year they actually closed down. Like, this was the last year you could buy copies of it. And so they're maintaining the website. And so a lot of the stores are still available online for free. But I am kind of like an archivist of like Black SF in general and like short fiction in particular, because like when Prismatica magazine closed down, there's a story in there by L.P. Kindred that I was only able to access because he had shared like a Google Doc with the story in there. Prismatica magazine is back up now, so the short stories are all back up now, but like that just really threw into perspective, like, oh, you know, if the magazine closes and the organizers don't want to pay to maintain the website, the author also doesn't release a short story collection if they don't like create a Google Doc or something to make it like easily accessible or post the fiction on their website, those stories could disappear forever. And so I was kind of like, I need to like buy the copies of the issues that have stories that I want to read. So I bought a bunch of e-copies, and then there were like a select few of the issues were actually collected into physical copies. And so I bought 2 of the physical copies. I got this one, I think has my favorite artwork of the 2. Let me see if I can find the cover artist. Oh. Oh, wow. I didn't realize that was also printed in color. That's snazzy. Yes, I'm so please. I'm old. Please let me be old in peace. Oh, interesting. There's like foldouts too. But the cover for this one is for the story Female Computer Wanted Apply Within by Innocent Shizuram Ilo, and the illustrations by Reiko Murakami. So that's this one. I really like the rainbow. I like the back of the head. It like makes me think of like Dirty Computer by Janelle Monáe. Also picked up this one. I think the cover illustration is based on At the Intersection of Light and Sound by Michelle Mellon, and the illustrations by Daniel Castromaya. So those are my 2 copies of Fireside Quarterly. Next up is a short story collection, Future Splendor, Celebrating a New Renaissance, an anthology, edited by Kai Adia and Angela Benson. So this is a Afrofuturism short story collection. I heard about this I think it was through Kickstarter, and so I backed it and I got a physical copy. So who are some of the contributors to this anthology? Oh wow. So there's like a QR code, I guess, with like a playlist, which I can now access because I upgraded my phone. So I can scan QR codes now. If you know, you know. So let's see. Oh, so I was expecting not to recognize many of the names on this table of contents, but I actually do recognize a few of them. There's Russell Nichols. He wrote Giant Steps. I recommended that for the Black Epiphon. Shirley Renee Thomas, a heavy hitter. She's edited a bunch of anthologies, written so many short stories. Masterful author. W.C. Dunlap, I read some of her writing. Those might be the only ones that I recognize. That's still more than I was expecting, though. It's a lot of new names, so I'm excited for that. And I like the little like symbols on the sides of the pages. I'll read from the back real quick. So this is an Afrofuturist speculative fiction collection honoring the 2020s and beyond. Echoing the 1920s Harlem Renaissance, Future Splendor features emerging and award-winning writers who share their visions of the future filled with liberation, joy, empowerment, and a turbulent process to get there. The works include near-future romances, journeys to defeat gentrifying witches, discovery of the self, and the memories we hold, our roots and the impulses that cast us into the future. So next up was a gift I received from a friend. They gave me an arc of The Monsters We Defy by Elle Penelope. She's written some fantasy romance series, I think the Stone Singer Chronicles, and this one is a historical fantasy about this woman, Clara Johnson. She can talk to ghosts and she's a detective. It's like a heist story. She has to steal like a magic ring to settle a spirit debt she has. And so she's like enlisting this team to help her pull off this heist. But there's like leakages from the spirit world into the human world. And like there's like a bigger mystery she kind of gets pulled into. And so it's about her adventures. I don't know much about this story, this author. I haven't read anything about Elle Penelope before. So this will be like probably the first thing I read by her, actually. And I'm looking forward to it. I wanted to read like a good like sort of paranormal mystery, and I read one within like the past couple months, but it wasn't quite giving me what I wanted, so I'm hoping that this is gonna be it for me. I'm hoping that's gonna scratch that itch I have. Next up is In the House of Transcendence by Amanda Ross. This one I had seen on my timeline, but what really like sold me on picking it up was that Ty's Books, who's hosted the For the Culture Readathon on Twitter, picked it as a group read and was speaking very, very highly of this. Really, I haven't been able to do any of the readathons that she's hosted, unfortunately, but I love the graphics. I love her energy on Twitter, and so I was like, I'm going to trust this recommendation. I'm going to get the book. So this is about a necromancer, Zora, who is like terrified of her abilities. She flees her childhood home and goes to Savannah, Georgia, and runs into this like mysterious, very powerful witch named Birdie. Birdie offers Zora like a job and housing at this burlesque club that she owns if Zora is going to help Birdie solve the murder of Birdie's lover. And I hear there's like a lot of Black queer characters in this book, and I'm just excited. It's been a minute, I think, since I read. I've read novels with Black queer characters this year, but it's one of those things where it's like I never read enough. There's always I could always be reading more. Next up is a bit of a story time. It's like a batch of books I ordered from Thrift Books. I kind of switch around in terms of used books or retailers, but Thrift Books I've generally had good experiences with because they consider library copies like laminated hardbacks to like kind of always be in good condition. Like I feel like they generally undersell the condition of the book. Like they'll be like, oh, it's like good condition. I'm like, this is fantastic condition. So I've generally been happy with like the price for the quality. The one major exception would be this copy of Freshwater that I bought. So you can't see it now, but where all this tape is basically, it was all ripped up. At the point that I realized it was ripped up, I had already taken off like the sticker on the side, and so I reached back out to Thrift Books like, oh hey, like I don't expect to get money back for this because I can't really even prove at this point that I bought it from Thrift Books, but this like was advertised as being in good condition. Like this is poor condition. Like this was vastly overpriced for what it was. And like just a heads up that like the quality control needs some adjustments. And they gave me a full refund for the book, so hey, you can't beat a book for free. And so I was inspired by kintsugi art. For people who don't know what that is, it's like a Japanese art form where broken pottery is mended with pieces of gold. The idea is like accentuate the flaws and like give it new beauty through like the signs of the damage. And so I was like, oh, let me like play around with some of this like melanin eclectic washi tape and see if I can like maybe get a cute little effect going. Like, you know, there's some purples and there's some pinks and greens. Like maybe I can like add the green washi and like the pink washi and then some of the purple and gold washi to like call back to that art inspiration. And like in general, like I'm happy with it. Like I don't look at it and go like, oh gosh, the rips, they're bothering me, because that's like a gut reaction I have to like beat up paperbacks. But like in general, I was hoping that like the art I made would feel like more cohesive. But I mean, I don't know, man. An effort was made. It was fun. I learned stuff. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I've already read Freshwater, adored it. I'm looking forward to rereading it because I read it like fairly early on in like my reading of Nigerian diaspora and literature, and so I know there's a lot of cultural stuff I missed, and so I'm looking forward to like rereading it now, knowing more and seeing like what more I get out of this book. For those who don't know, this is basically like a memoir of Akwaeke Emezi's life. In interviews, Akwaeke Emezi's been like, this is basically like large excerpts from my diary. So for people who don't know, Akwaeke Emezi is non-binary. The Ada explores gender and stuff throughout the book, and there's a way that their gender is tied to them being an Obanji, that they explore, kind of like reconfigure things in their life to match that. So then the other big finds from Thrift Books were, I love folktales, as you may remember from the live I did with Tammy of Tammy Tries to Read and Kiki of This is Paradise. And so I got some African American folktale collections. I'd been looking for these ones from Virginia Hamilton for a little bit. Was hoping to find them at my local thrift store, but no such luck, so I just got them online. There's The People Could Fly. Both of these are illustrated by Leo and Diane Dillon, who were like a fantasy illustration power couple back in the day. So, not every story is illustrated, but let me see if I can find, like, this was kind of the style. That's this volume, and I'm really happy with it. Like, the dust jacket's in great condition. And then there's her stories, African American folk tales, fairy tales, and true tales. If you remember, I mentioned in that live the story of, I think it was called The Mermaid Riots. And if I remember correctly, I read about that in this edition. Yes, I did, because this is the illustration for this one. Like, these collections are aimed for children, so there's not like really anything too racy in here. And there's not a whole lot of like historical annotation in there if that's like something you're interested in learning more about based on the live. But the bibliography section for both these books is like really great if you want to like learn more and like do some further research. The illustrations in both are great, but for the most part, the illustrations in this one are in black and white, and like all of these ones are in color. So very happy I was able to add these to my collection. Then next up is Dark Moons Rising on a Starless Night by Mamoudou Gomadian. It's a short story collection. This is more on like the dark fiction, like horror, like uncanny end of the spectrum. And it's a shame because I can't find the cover design on my quick flip through, because I think the design for this is great. Like I love this like ink style, like on terms of making like the tree, this baobab tree all textured and like gnarly looking. And then this like spectral figure like at the base of the tree. I just really love the design for this cover. I think it's so gorgeous. But I don't think I've read any of this author's work. This is like my introduction to him, so excited. The only other thing I know with this author is that I believe he helps with Omanana magazine. I think he edits the Francophone edition of that magazine. Next up is Smoketown by Tania D. Johnson. I heard this is like a dystopian set in like a post-climate change US. It's a sapphic story about this woman, Anna, who's living in this city waiting for a woman that, I'm paraphrasing what's on the back, a woman that she's lost. When one night Anna creates life out of thin air and desperation, no one is prepared for what comes next. Not Lucine, a smooth-talking soothsayer with plans for the city, Lucine's brother Eugenio, who has designs of his own, Seifa, a star performer in the Leodarn cosmos, or Rory, a forefather of the cities lived through outbreak, heartbreak, and scandal. Told through their interlocking stories, Smoketown delves into the invisible connections that rival magic and the cost of redemption. If I remember correctly, Smoketown was a Carl Brandon Award finalist, so I think that's how I first heard of this book, and it's an adult sapphic story. I'm trying to read more of those, so excited for this. And the last of the thrift book section is Tailor Made by Yolanda Wallace. This is a contemporary sapphic romance between a tailor and a client. Don't know much more than that. Don't need to know much more than that. I just really like romances where it's hard to explain, but both of them have a skill set that they can kind of like work together to create something new. Like this one where it's like, I really like nice suits and dressing nicely, and like it's like, oh, I'm a tailor, I can help you with that, and romance ensues. Or like, I don't know, maybe one person's a gardener and the other person's a chef, and like, you know, the gardener like gets fresh vegetables for the chef, and the chef cooks a great meal and they eat it and it's great. And like, I don't know, I just like stuff like that, where people have like some like skill they're proud of and they like, you know, share, I guess, like the products of that skill with the love interest. I don't know if that made sense. It's just something I'm into. It's just something I like, so I'm excited to read this. So another story time is I got these two from the Book Trader in Philly. So how the Book Trader works is that you can bring in used books within certain parameters, you trade them in, you get store credit, and then you can get books from the store. And I had a racket going for a little bit where I would take the leftover books from my local library book sale. Like, they would just leave them for free because like they tried to sell them, no one wanted them. They don't want to throw them in the dumpster, so there's like free books, take them if you want them. And I'd take the free books, and I'd go to the Book Trader, and I'd get store credit, and then I'd get books for free, and it was great. And I was doing this for a little bit, and then COVID hit, and the store like closed up for a little bit. They weren't taking donations, weren't doing anything. I wasn't even going into the city. I haven't looked back since COVID, and I went back there like a few weeks ago, and I was like, surely my store credit is not still there. And lo and behold, my store credit was still there. So I got Rosewater by Tade Thompson. This is one I've read before, but I just was stoked to find like a Black as Fuck title so easily. Like it was just like right there in the like new arrival section. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna snag this. It's about this frontier town in Nigeria where basically this weird dome has shown up, and every year the dome like opens and like heals people somehow in the vicinity. And also, since the dome arrived, people in the area have developed telepathic abilities, and you know, there's a whole economy around this. Things are looking fine until one day the telepaths start getting sick and dying. And so one of the telepaths, who's like worried about his friends, worried about his own health, starts to investigate stuff. And then I also picked up The Old Drift by Namwali Serpil. So this is a multi-generational story set in Zambia. I haven't read it before, but from what I remember from reviews, a lot of it is set in like the past, and there's like a little bit that's set in the future, like maybe like a few chapters. It's been on my to read list for a little bit, and just in general, it takes me a little bit to get through like more like contemporary feeling work, and so I thought it would make sense for me to own a copy, so I wasn't like juggling the like library return dates and all that. So this is my little Book Trader haul. And now that they're back open and taking donations, I think I'm going to get back to scamming and trading in my free library books for store credit. So the next two books were gifts from authors. I won a giveaway for The Undertakers by Nicole Glover, and she put a signed book plate in there, which is so nice of her. I really, really love The Conductors, which was the first one in the series. This is a historical fantasy, like murder mystery series set in Reconstruction era Philadelphia. This one involves a series of arsons, and I love the first one. I loved the romance between Hetty and Benji. I love the character work. Like, Hetty's like just quick-witted, hard-headed, a really fun protagonist. I love the magic system that uses like constellations, and it's kind of like amorphous and like very malleable, and like allows for a lot of creative possibilities on the magic user's end. And so very excited for the sequel. And then the other one I received from an author was a copy of Fibbed, which is a graphic novel by Elizabeth Agumang. So this one is in full color, as you can see, and this is a middle grade about a young girl, Nana. She goes to visit her family in Ghana, where like storytelling is very important. It's kind of like a big part of her like going home experience. She's like not super happy about going to visit the family. She doesn't speak the language. There's culture differences. But her life gets more difficult when Anansi himself, the trickster, the goddess story, shows up. And she finds out that the forest around where she's been staying is actually like full of magic and is in jeopardy of being torn down. So it's about her rallying with her friends and Anansi to try and save this forest. So thank you to Elizabeth Agumang for this copy of this graphic novel. I'm excited to read it. She also signed the copy for me, so that was sweet of her. So the next batch is some more like generic purchases. So this is the bind up for Baffling Year 1. So I've mentioned it a few times, but I really enjoy the work in Baffling Fiction magazine. It's for flash fiction, so it's like very short fiction. Like, you can read it in like 15 minutes, if that. And this is a compilation of Year 1, so it looks like that is the 4 issues you can see in the back there. And I've really enjoyed the writing that has come out of Baffling. Like, off the top of my head, Sunskins by Darius Agunfalowo, a horror short, is in here. For those who loved the Gilda stories by Joel Gomez, there's like a follow-up flash short, Merida Yucatan 2060. Duppy by Bendy Barrett is a really good one. It's not quite a choose your own adventure, but there's 2 stories going on at once. So sensual, a lot of focus on like beautiful language and like sensations and how things feel and eroticism, and I really enjoyed that short. Yeah, so I haven't read all the stuff that Baffling put out, so there's definitely new stories in here for me to read, but also just excited to have a physical copy of some stories I've really, really enjoyed this year. Then next is Seedlings, which is by Curtis Aki and Brianna McCarthy. This is Caribbean-inspired neo-fables, so from what I understand, they're not existing folklore, but like fables and stories for the modern day. Like, I think it's for a slightly younger audience because it is illustrated. Like, this is one of the... I think each story comes with a full color illustration. Yeah, I don't know much about it, but I just love the artwork, love the idea, so I'm very excited to read this. And next up is The Promise Keeper by L. Marie Wood. I had a Scribd trial at one point, and so I started reading the story. Scribd trial expired, so I didn't finish the story, so I got myself a physical copy. But this is a historical fiction about a vampire. So there's a young girl in like historical Benin, like pre-transatlantic slave trade, who's turned into a vampire. And then we cut to like the mid-1900s where there's a woman in prison for killing her husband for adultery. And she runs into this vampire in the prison, and they kind of get to talking. Like, the woman knows that there's something like different about the vampire, like, and the vampire tells stories where the woman's like, this can't be true, like, if this is true, this woman's been alive for hundreds of years, and that doesn't make any sense. The vampire is being stalked by the original vampire who turned her, who, like, she has an antagonistic relationship with, and I don't know much more about it than that, but I was enjoying what I was reading. I like the writing style. It was like punchy and moved pretty quick, so I'm excited to finish this up. These were 2 books I got from Giovanni Thrift in Philly, which is a store where I believe the proceeds go to supporting people living with HIV and AIDS. And like, I guess the story with these is that
I had just kind of gone into Giovanni's Thrift on a whim, and so pretty much anytime I just like see Black SFF out and about at those stores, I'm like, I kind of have to buy it. Like, I'm just like so not used to it being like so easily accessible. So even though I don't own like the first one in the series, I was like, I'll buy the second one in the series. Worst case scenario, it winds up as a giveaway item. And this one was such an impulse thing too. Like I was literally in line with this book at checkout, and I'm like looking around, and like there's the display right next to the cash register, and I saw this, and I like squealed, screeched. I just been seeing it around on social media, and I had wanted to buy a copy, and I was just like, oh, I'm just gonna get it online. And so I saw it at the store, and like it's like just like about to close in 5 minutes, and like the cashier run me up for this one. I was like, wait, snatch! Can I add this to my order?
So I got King of the Rising by Kacen Callender. I enjoyed the predecessor to this, Queen of the Conquered, which is about a Caribbean-inspired world where people have telepathic abilities. There are the black people who are indigenous to the island who have been colonized by these white people who are known in this world as the Fjern. And the Fjern believe it is their divine right and theirs alone to have these telepathic abilities, and so they kill any of the islanders who are found to have the abilities as well. And they killed the main character's family, and she vows vengeance on them. And this is a follow up to that story. The first one I thought was a little slow. I didn't like the main character, and I just thought there were some things that I was like, this is obviously like setting up a twist for this. I felt like the character lied to herself a lot, and I don't know if I'm just like very familiar with that type of person or what, but I feel like I kind of like pulled her card like fairly early on. So like for me, it dragged a little bit, but like the payoff was fantastic. And so this is going to be interesting because I think it's a different character who's narrating this one. I haven't really heard very many reviews of this one, so I don't know what to expect going into it. And then there is another sapphic romance. Devon and Chris plan a wedding. This is like a fake dating story. So one of the characters is trying to like show her mom, they're like, oh no, I'm like getting out there, you know, I'm socializing. Like I have this girlfriend, like we're getting married, like it's real serious. I'm telling you, I'm socializing. And the other person's an influencer who thinks it's gonna like boost her channel to have this like marriage go on. And so, you know, oh wow, how convenient, we should get fake married. And then, oh no, feelings develop. What could happen? Looking forward to reading this. I've read one fake dating story before and I wasn't feeling it. It felt like regular dating but with extra steps. So I'm hoping this is going to redeem the fake dating trope for me. And last up, I have an item of book mail from Simon Teen. A big thank you to Selena Naval for offering me an arc of Delicious Monsters by Lizelle Sambury. So I got this fancy box in the mail. Simon Teen rollout for their arcs is always something to behold. I remember I got the Legendborn box and I was like shocked. But this says, some evils haunt us in the dark, others hide in plain sight. I love a plant. I love a leaf. So I'm loving these monstera leaves and the vines all over the box. And then what's on the inside? Let's have a look-see. And it's cute. I don't know if you can see, but there's like fake ivy vines in there. And it comes with a little Delicious Monsters bookmark. This is really nice. So there's a nice like letter on the Monstera leaf cardstock from Lizelle Sambury. And then there is, seeds. Shasta daisies. I don't know exactly what Shasta daisy looks like, but I think they're like the white ones. Oh, they're really committed to the flower bed. I applaud them. And then here's the book, and oh gosh, I love this cover. Does it say the artist? Okay, unfortunately I'm having trouble finding the name of the artist because this is just gorgeous. I love plants. I love the idea of people being plants. I love the idea of people becoming evil plants. Like, I'm thinking of, like, The Forest, Seven Bells, Turns Around the World at Midnight by Sheree Renee Thomas. I love, like, mirrors and duality, so I'm just, like, all about this creepy, creepy cover. And the synopsis says, Daisy sees dead people, something impossible to forget in bustling ghost-packed Toronto. She usually manages to deal with her unwanted ability, but she's completely unprepared to be dumped by her boyfriend. So that's always fun. So when her mother inherits a secluded mansion in northern Ontario where she spent her childhood summers, Daisy jumps at the chance to escape. But the house is nothing like Daisy expects, and she begins to realize that her experience with the supernatural might be no match for her mother's secrets, nor what lurks within these walls. A decade later, Brittany is desperate to get out from under the thumb of her abusive mother, a best-selling author who claims her stay at Miracle Mansion allowed her to see the error of her ways. But Brittany knows that's nothing but a sham. She decides a new season of her popular haunted web series will uncover what happened to a young black girl in the mansion 10 years prior and finally expose her mother's lies. But as she gets more wrapped up in the investigation, she'll have to decide if she can only bring one story to light, which one matters most, Daisy's or her own. As Brittany investigates the mansion in the present, Daisy's story runs parallel in the past, both timelines propelling the girls to face the most dangerous monsters of all, those that hide in plain sight. I'm stressed. I got to the bit about the abusive mother who's a best-selling author, and I was just like, oh no. Not the ones who try to tell you they're reformed or make money off of it. Oh no. I just know that this book's gonna put me through it, but I'm excited. I haven't read anything by Lizelle Samber yet. I know, and Jerry and other people have spoken very highly of Blood Like Magic, but I haven't had a chance to read it yet, so this is gonna be my introduction to her, and so I'm excited for that. And the last book I'm gonna mention is an ebook, so I'm just gonna have to edit the cover up here somewhere, but it's a novella, Empire of the Feast by Bendy Barrett. This is from Neon Hemlock Press, which is a small publisher devoted to printing queer SFF novellas. I had pre-ordered this. I think the physical copy's on the way, or it's lost in my room. I hope it's not lost in my room. But the premise of this one is that there's this like giant, vast empire, like that's very close to the sun. And there is this like sort of primordial being who just like eats worlds and galaxies and stuff. And a long time ago, the sorcerers of this empire bound that being into the sun. And there's this sex magic, like a constant orgy going on that keeps that entity trapped in the sun. And there's a lot of like internal strife in the empire that's starting to like chip away at the magic that keeps that creature bound. It's about like these political factions basically duking out for who's going to rule the empire, what's the entity's actual goals and desires, and like how it's trying to like infiltrate and like get out. What does the emperor even want? Like I said, the author is Bendy Barrett, who wrote Duppy from Baffling Magazine, so like I know that he writes like the sensual, the erotic very well, and so I'm very excited for those aspects of this book. And just in general, I'm excited for queer adult SFF that's like openly sexual and erotic. And yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Did you recognize any of the titles I mentioned? Are there any books you purchased recently that you're really excited to read? Did any of my little interludes, stories about how I pick books or have been buying used books resonate with you? I'd love to hear about it. Please tell me in the comments. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care and hope you have a good day. Goodbye.